Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and another episode on Raj's Garage. We are back again at Northway Porsche. I seem to love this place. I think I spend more time here than I do at Cass. That's not a good thing because every time I'm here, I end up spending a lot of money. So if you recall, I dropped my 964 turbo here a few weeks ago. If you remember, the engine was smoking a lot and I was concerned that any moment that engine could pop, which would be very expensive. Now, it's taken me a few weeks to get over that mammoth build that I was presented with by Paul. He did rip me a new one, but I only want to do it once and I've got to do it right. So I've left it in Paul's hands. I know there are a load of new parts that he has ordered in, and I think there's some parts that are being refurbished and refreshed. So let's find my 964 turbo, let's find Paul, and let's have a catch up. Let's get into it, guys. There is my turbo. Obviously no engine in the back. It's not been anywhere since I dropped it off. And I know Paul's in there. Harrison's already mic'd him up. So let me find Paul and let's have a chat. How are we doing, Paul?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
I'm really good. I'm really good. Good to see you, mate. Thanks for ripping me a new one in the last episode.
Piston rings, 130 quid each. Yeah, so by the time you've added all that up, labour, the oils, everything else, you're into about 7.5 grand. Always a pleasure.
I've got over that the bill. I'd like to now see what I'm paying for. So that's why I'm here today.
Right, okay. Well, as we discussed before, we stripped it down and you had just left your crankcase.
Yes.
We've got a multitude of new parts over there, which I'll run through with you in a second. But after last time, we had a little conversation and then we decided to go a little bit further, didn't we?
Oh yes, that conversation. I thought you were going to say, but there's something else.
No, not yet.
Oh, there is something else.
Well, yeah, but we'll build up to that one.
Okay,
yeah.
So yes, after the last video, we had a conversation and we decided to do a few more bits, which you can discuss on camera. So before we get into all those new lovely parts you've got behind you, you've got some new bits and pieces here, haven't you?
Yeah, so basically last time we spoke on the fact of head studs.
Yes.
So like we said beforehand, you had the newer style Delavar head studs in the bottom, but the top set were still the original ones. So we decided to take those out, and instead of having your 5-6 quid studs in there, which are renowned for snapping, these ones are approximately £35-36 each plus the VAT. But it's a costly thing that you don't want to go down that far without replacing.
What's the difference between these and the cheaper ones?
Basically, the cheaper ones, over time, because they're high tensile steel, you get any form of movement in the actual barrel itself and they cause them to shatter. So when they shatter, you end up getting a broken head stud. The stud comes off the top. When you go in there to service a car, you'll see it. When you physically take the cam covers off, you'll find just the nut on the top just floating around inside the casing area. And basically, 4 studs hold that barrel and cylinder head on. Snap 1, you can probably just about get away with it. Snap 2 on the same cylinder, it's going to start to lift.
Right.
So it ends up sounding like you got an exhaust blow when you accelerate. Less power. So whilst you're here,
might as well do it properly.
You do it properly. You've got 12 new ones on the top, retain your old ones in the bottom because they're the Delavar later ones anyway.
Okay, perfect. Right, should we have a look at some of these?
Yeah, new components.
Where do you want to start? The new parts?
Well, new parts, quite straightforward and simple. Gasket sets, so top and bottom sets. Piston rings. So
Marler piston rings.
Marler piston rings.
Is that stock part in these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stock part.
I didn't know they came with Marler piston rings.
Yeah. Okay. Marler pistons, Marler piston rings. Stock replacement part. Quite straightforward and simple on that. New chains.
Yes.
So the actual cam chains themselves. New bearings, bottom end bearings.
We discussed those.
We did, yeah. So hence why we've gone that little bit further. 119,000 miles whilst we're here, we're that far down.
110,000.
Sorry, my mistake.
I want to get to 119,000.
Yeah, well, I hope so. So do I. New mains and big end bearings, new oil drain back tubes, mainly because they start to rot when they've been in there for so long, because they're just mould steel. And also, when they're looking all corroded underneath, for the sake of what they are, £20 odd each, you put new ones in there, it just brightens up the underside of the vehicle.
Awesome.
The engine, making it look better. Retaining your original com rods,
Sure.
but putting in new com rod bolts,
Yes.
because every time you separate them, good working practice, you replace the studs
Okay.
and the nuts on there every time.
Are they fairly inexpensive items in comparison?
If you're buying genuine Porsche ones, again, there's a lot of aftermarket ones out there, some of which I wouldn't fit, just because on past experience, their friction fit where they go into the actual rod itself is not as good.
Right.
Porsche ones are brilliant, but for the cost of the Porsche ones, you buy a set of ARP, basically race component ones, a lot better feel, a lot better quality.
I've heard of this brand.
Yeah, they're good. They're very good.
Yeah.
Never had any problems with them. We use them for Comrod bolts. We've used them for lots of other bits and pieces as well on
Sure.
some of the later engines. They've always been good. Always been good.
Excellent.
So yeah, basically that is a plethora of all your bottom end stuff that's going in the engine. Obviously, last time we talked about cylinder heads. Now, this is the main reason why we stripped the engine down, because the actual valve stems were wearing thin. So now the heads have been completely refurbished. When we spoke last time,
All the heads have been
done.
Okay.
Even though you have one new one,
Correct.
I sent all 6 to the machine shop because I wanted them all matching.
Perfect.
It's
Great
quite
idea.
as simple as
Good
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So, with that in mind, when we took the valves out of it and they measured the actual stem thickness, they'd actually worn.
Right.
So, although you've got new guides in there, which will obviously help when the actual valves wear thinner, then you're going to still get some of that play in there. So, put new valves in there as well at the same time. So yeah, they've been all completely refurbed.
That's another cost that we didn't discuss.
That's another cost on the top that we didn't
do.
do, but it's only the part cost on top.
Right.
That is it. So it's the part cost of the actual valves themselves. And then they basically reface them, reskim them, so that basically when they all goes back together, you've got perfect mating faces. Away you go again.
They look totally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they look factory fresh, but they definitely look a lot fresher than
They
I
look a
saw
lot
last
fresher.
time.
They do a really good job of them. They have to be heat treated and everything before they go back in. So they know what they're doing.
So I had a few questions from some of the viewers when the last episode dropped.
Yeah.
Why am I not using forged parts? Why am I not using forged pistons? And I can't answer that question. So I'm going to ask you, why are we not using forged pistons?
Basically boils down to cost. The cost of all those items, especially on a Porsche engine, the prices start to go up and up.
So there's a significant difference between the two.
Yeah.
So it's just down to cost.
Basically, that's why we haven't done it. This
ultimately, this is not a racing engine.
Exactly that. For what purpose of you using the car, you don't necessarily need those extra parts and that extra expense at this time. And on top of that, we spoke about Timw. I think one of these from Porsche is probably around about 500-600 quid just for that one piece itself. So for the sake of getting it all repowder coated, if it's strong enough, yours was in pretty good condition. Because a lot of the time this piece along here starts to rot and then there's nothing left of it.
Right.
So by the time you've shot blasted it and then repowder coated it, there's nothing left. Certain parts, would you believe, like some of these side sections that would run along the actual rocker housing itself, they're actually cheaper from Porsche than some of the aftermarket ones.
Okay.
So just do a little bit of homework before you just rush out and buy the aftermarket ones. Some of them. So, but yeah, yours, like I said, they've all come up really good.
Excellent. Over that side?
This side, basically, is more your engine components. So again, cylinder heads here. So you've got 3 there, 3 here. And then we also talked about these. So these were your inlet stacks, that when we showed you last time, the Bakelite are completely gone on the bottom. So that's 6 of your new ones there. Yeah.
So these are complete new parts?
Brand new parts from Porsche. The only other parts that we did speak about were these rocker shafts.
Yes.
Because we said to you, obviously they wear, and where they situate inside the actual rocker housing, they tend to leak. So you've got these little slits here. We put the motorsport seals in there. Porsche part, but they only fitted them into some of the RS ones and what have you.
Right.
So we put those seals in there. Again, it just prolongs the life of it a little bit more and just try to stop some of those renowned oil leaks that you get when it all goes back together again.
So we got a lot of new parts.
Yep.
A lot of parts that have been refreshed and refurbished.
Yeah, we're pretty much there, ready to go, start building it.
Now you say build up the engine.
Yep.
You know, to me this is one big jigsaw puzzle, and in my case I don't have a manual or an instructional manual to go by.
Yeah.
So why don't you educate me and the audience as to where you would start first in rebuilding the turbo's engine?
First and foremost with everything that you do with these is cleanliness. So obviously this has already been through the wash a few times.
This has been through the wash?
This has been through the wash a few times. You get the alley corrosion here on the outside and what have you. You can dress that. But a lot of people, what they do is they have it shot blasted or vapor blasted. I don't like doing that because you're firing an object or debris at a crankcase. Okay. And you get any of that debris on the inside and what have you, even if you clean it as best you can, once the engine then gets warm, the alley expands, becomes more porous, that debris then can go back inside the engine again.
Sure.
So it's not something that we want to be able to do. From there...
Just noticing here, there's some marks. I mean, they're not cracks, are they? No. Obviously, if they were, you would have told me.
Yeah, that's all from where it's been sand cast in the first place.
Sure, okay.
From when the casting when it's first made.
Right.
We take out all the core plugs throughout the engine, clean all those all the way through. And it's the same with the rocker housings as well. We take the actual spray tubes out, make sure they're all clean, just so that you get the oil pressure going through the engine as it should do. And yeah, from there, it's basically assemble, reverse order. So crankshaft, oil pump, all goes in the bottom. 2 crankcase halves together, 3 bolt seals going on there as well. Yeah, barrels, heads.
It makes it sound so easy, doesn't it?
Takes a little bit longer than just talking about it. Yeah, and then once the valve gear goes on there, then obviously all your actual valve timing gets done, and then just bolting all the ancillaries on. Normally, once I've got all the components back, it's normally over a week I can get the engine built. Okay. Then it will go back in the car. Then we do testing on the car. So we don't just put it back together and fire it back out the door. We want to run it for probably around about 50, 60 miles, make sure it's all good. It will have running oil in there in the first instance. And then after a period of time. Is
that like a leak down test and compression test, or?
It's basically just making sure 1, no oil leaks, 2, no noises, untoward or anything else like that. 3, we run it for a bit, nut and bolt check everything again afterwards. We just want to make sure that when you get back in the car, you don't have any potential issues that we could have sorted out in the first instance. It's as simple as that.
And are you expecting me to do a sort of running in service?
Yes, yeah.
About 1,000 miles or?
500 miles, we say to you to keep it below 4,000 RPM. I mean, that's
going to be difficult.
It's not set in stone.
Okay.
The only reason why we set that amount is so that you don't go off and go and do a track day.
Okay, I won't do that, but you know, the turbo kicks in about 3,300.
Yeah, so it's that short burst.
Yeah, it's that short burst. Oh, damn, change gear. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then after that, then you're free to go, but 1,000 miles, come back in, oil change. Again, check over, make sure there's no other issues. Or you've got nothing to report back on, and then, yeah, free to go.
There we have it, guys. We'll be back here in maybe 2 or 3 weeks to hopefully pick up the car. Yeah. Fingers crossed there's no issues between now and then, and if there are, obviously Paul will let me know. Remember to take all those photos. Yeah, I'm sure you guys would love to see all the photos of it coming back together. Mate, fantastic. Thank you very much. Northway's details are on the screen and in the description below. As I mentioned to you previously, they are my go-to guys for servicing my classics all the way up to my 997. And I know a fair few of you have reached out to me since the last episode. And as I say to you all, it's best to just email them direct. I don't get any kickback or any commission, so don't worry about that. Email them direct or phone them direct and they'll look after you. So yeah, I will be back in 2 or 3 weeks. You know what you need to do now. Make sure you smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when the next episode drops. Thank you very much, Paul, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Cheers.